Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2017 Fantasy Farming Challenge. We're going to try something a little bit different this year and provide a little video tutorial of our teacher toolkit. This should allow you to better understand the ins and outs of our program and the basics and how we get our team drafted and how we walk through all these processes, and also provide you a little insight and video to be able to use within the classroom. So what is the Fantasy Farming Challenge? This challenge was set up at our Monmouth, Illinois Learning Center a number of years ago, and we really wanted a program that really helps our students and our FFA chapters to better understand farming as a business, get them into the process of making some of the real life decisions that many of our growers make on a day-to-day basis, and we wanted to incorporate that in a kind of fun way to be able to make the learning environment a little enjoyable. So we set it up as basically just like a fantasy football league where we get to draft certain players and certain team members throughout the season, much like what we'll do as we draft different partners in our farming challenge as well. So what we're going to do now is basically walk through what each one of these players or our farming players means for us this season. So here are the players. We're going to be able to draft a quarterback and two running backs, a wide receiver, and a defense and special teams, along with a kicker. You can see here that we correlate the quarterback to our product. Our running back is our nitrogen applications. Our planting population is our wide receivers. Planting date is our special teams. And our fungicide decision is really going to be what we call the kicker. So whenever you hear us refer to quarterback and running backs from here on out, this is what we'll be referring to when we're talking about the farming aspect of the game. So the product is really essentially one of your most important decisions for your farming operation. This has the most impact on your bottom line, and whether it's high yield or whether it's profitability, this product decision is going to be the most important every season. We often hear throughout the season what kind of different products do we choose? What are the different types? And we often refer to them as racehorses and workhorses. The racehorse type product is your high risk, high reward product. They shine really well in great growing seasons, but you put a little stress on them, whether it's environment, whether it's weather, whether it's soil type. Any of those type stresses can certainly hurt the performance of those racehorses. Your workhorse products are a little bit different, right? So they get to basically get out of the gate and they work for you all year long. They have a little bit lower risk, but have a little bit more consistent performance throughout the season, especially around those stress environments or those stress conditions that we really can't anticipate. We also use biotech traits to help protect that yield potential of all of our products. All of our products will be glyphosate tolerant, which is our Roundup Ready corn. That's just a base trait that we'll have in every single product that we choose from. We do provide options as a company to have a conventional hybrid to our organic farmers and growers, but for this exercise, we're going to stick to just base Roundup Ready tolerant products. And then we have a wide array of different insect traits, or what we call BT traits, that protect against various insect throughout the season as well. We have above ground resistance and we have below ground tolerance in these products as well. So we'll walk through that in our next slide. And when we think about choosing our product, we have a number of different maturities to choose from as well. We have an early maturity and a late maturity product, and anywhere in between there. This year we provide an option of 103-day relative maturity all the way up to 114-day maturity. These maturity numbers make a difference as far as how many growing degree units it takes to get to full maturity, or what we call black layer, at the end of the season when that corn is mature. The longer the season product, the longer the time that it can take to put that energy into a crop, the more chance or the more opportunity you have for higher yields. More times than not, a longer season product will yield more. However, depending upon the year, growing conditions, environment, Mother Nature, a later season product could also be wet. It may not have enough time to mature, and you could be harvesting 22, 23% moisture when other products are only running 17 or 18. So then if your corn is wetter at the end of the season, then that is going to hurt your profitability when you have to dry that corn down to 15% when you haul it to the elevator. So there's a lot of different variances here to choose from, or a lot of complexity when we go to choose that product. And at the end of the day, this is by far the number one choice we make on any given year. So here are our base herbicide and insect trait options that I talked a little bit about on the last slide. I mentioned that all of our products are going to be Roundup Ready corn. We just chose these 6 products that all have Roundup Ready. It gives us a lot of flexibility in our herbicide program and a lot of flexibility in our weeds that we're trying to kill. Then we get into our Double Pro and Triple Pro technology. These are what we refer to as when we get into our insect protection traits. Our Double Pro is basically only above ground traits for above ground insects. This would be for corn earworm, corn borer protection, for an example. These have no below ground traits for corn rootworm. This is where you would need to make a decision if you want to put a soil applied insecticide option with this product. Your Triple Pro technology, which is an older technology, I'm not so sure that we even have a Triple Pro product in our options this year, but this would be an older product that was this would have been our second below ground product. It gives us the 2 insect protection traits for above ground, but also gives us the corn insect protection trait for corn rootworm below ground as well. And we've phased out of that technology into what we call our Genuity Smart Stacks technology. And you'll see a number of different product options as you start to research the number of different products within the DeKalb lineup. These actually provide 3 insect protection traits for above ground and 2 insect protection traits for corn rootworm below ground. Now you may ask, why is it that the number, 2 traits below, 3 traits above make a lot of difference? Well, that's what we call our insect pest management program, or resistance management strategy. The more traits or the more modes of action we have above and below ground, the less likelihood of those pests to create resistance to that technology, and helps us manage those pests at a more efficient scale throughout the season and year over year technology. Let's get into the actual quarterback options here. As you see, we've got 6 hybrids listed here. I'm not going to go into specific detail on each one of these products. You can read the write-ups here, but certainly take a look at these products and see how they fit your overall strategy. I certainly encourage each one of your groups to create a strategy on really what you want out of your plot for a year. Are you going to go after the highest yield, or are you going to go after the most profitability? And you can see here to the right, your price here on the side is your price for each one of those products on a per 1,000 seed basis. So every 1,000 seeds that you put out of these products, that's what it's going to cost you into your bottom line. But certainly there's more detailed ways to research these quarterback profiles. We certainly recommend going to www.agseedselect.com, and you can basically pull up those profiles of those products and understand the disease characteristics of each one of those products, and look at stock ratings and root ratings, and just look at the overall characteristics and see how they differ, see how they match up, and see what concerns you may have about these products or what you like about them. We certainly also encourage you to potentially reach out to your local DeKalb dealer and see what kind of data that they have, or see what insights that they would have into these products, or what maybe their best options would be from this list as well. Next, we're going to switch gears and talk about our running backs. So if you remember from the beginning of the presentation, our running backs are really around our nitrogen program. Nitrogen is by far the most important nutrient in corn production. It's also by far the most complex program that we deal with on any given growing season. Nitrogen is needed for a number of different things. Number one, it gives you your overall nutrients for an overall healthy plant. It gives you that stay green throughout the year. So there's good reasons why we don't want to short ourselves on nitrogen, but having too much nitrogen is also not being a great steward of our land, as well, as because it is very readily available in water movement. It dissolves very easily and can move throughout the soil profile with heavy moisture events. It does not stay in the soil profile throughout the season. It can be lost either to leaching, denitrification, and even plant uptake as well. A general rule of thumb that we tend to go by is usually we go from anywhere right around that 0.9 to 1 pound of N per acre for each bushel of yield goal that you want. So for instance, if you're shooting for a 220 bushel yield goal, 0.9 pounds of that yield goal would be about 198 pounds. But you also have to take into other considerations a previous crop of soybeans also gives you a little what they call an N credit per acre. You'll hear different stories on this, anywhere from 30 to 40 pounds per acre of nitrogen given as a credit into that next crop. And then there's also nitrogen that's also in the dry fertilizer program that we apply every year as well. So on that dry fertilizer program, there's usually 20 to 25 pounds of nitrogen in that dry fertilizer that's applied preseason as well. So take those factors into consideration as you're choosing your nitrogen rate. Your nitrogen can be applied all up front, pre-plant, incorporated, or we can split those into multiple applications into a side dress, what we call a side dress application as well. So we can choose whatever percentage you want to go pre-plant and then side dress that next percentage. So say you want to do 50-50 or 75-25, which would be 75% of your total pounds applied pre-plant, and then we come back with a side dress application and put that 25% back on right around the V5 time frame. A lot of the main benefits of that split application would be to split up not put all your eggs in one basket. You're not putting all your nitrogen in at the same time. You're allowing some of that nitrogen to not be in the soil profile and be readily available, and put it out there right before that corn needs it the most, is at those late vegetative growing stages into the reproductive stages as well. So that's certainly one of your bigger choices here in the program, is to decide, number one, how many pounds of N are you going to pay for? And then, are you going to pay for the second pass of the side dress, or just put it out at all pre-plant incorporated? So a number of different decisions here with your running back option. As you can see here on this graph, the N rate doesn't necessarily correlate equally in a linear curve with your average yield. You'll see here that at this specific example, this is an example from our Monmouth Learning Center in 2011. We applied 195 pounds of N here at this spot, and our yield was roughly around, it looks like, 210, 220, right in there. Where we jumped up and put another 40, roughly about 44 pounds extra nitrogen on, but we didn't gain near as much yield. We did gain in yield, but the return on your dollars for that 44 pounds of N definitely didn't equal the additional, it looks like, basically this was 220 and this is 216. So we gained 4 bushels an acre between these 2 points for 44 pounds of N. If you run the math on that, that just doesn't pay. So this isn't a year by year curve either. We don't know where these lines are going to peak out at on any given year based on the environment. And that's what makes the nitrogen cycle so complex on what we're going to choose to do throughout the season. You can see here another graph from our Monmouth Learning Center also shows the N rate by timing. So we also talked about putting it out full rate of N pre-plant incorporated, and then also splitting it 50-50 with 50-50 or 2/3, 1/3, 75%, 25, whatever you guys want to choose is certainly up to you. If you certainly want to pay that extra application cost in the side dress, there certainly are benefits of putting it out there at a different time, but there certainly are some obstacles that you have to overcome. This is 2008 to 2010, but I would also say that 2016 was very similar to this type of graph. You can see here the first circle is our full rate of N at pre, yielded just under 200 bushel to the acre. You can see our side dress application where we put 67% out pre and 1/3 out at side dress barely beat us in yield for that full rate of N. In a great growing conditions like last year, we saw a lot of the same things where that additional rate of N, or that side dress rate, definitely didn't pay. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case in 2017, but those are just the things that we don't know. What are the conditions going to look like in June? Because V5 will typically be that first or second week in June, barring that we get our crop planted in a timely fashion in late April, early May timeframe. So again, a number of things to take into consideration here when not only choosing your nitrogen rate, how much pounds are you going to put out, but is it going to pay to split that application into a side dress and make that additional cost to spread that nitrogen application out throughout the season. Next year is just another example where it was a good year for side dress. This was another example from our Monmouth group. You can see here where we had both of these red circles, both had 240 pounds of nitrogen on them, but this first one was all pre-plant incorporated, which was just under 145. This second circle was where we put a third of that 240 into a side dress application, and we gained on average, or it looks like about 16 bushel to the acre. So certainly this was a year that the side dress application paid for itself in that split application. So here again, I don't want to sway you either way. I want to show you the good and bad examples of what Mother Nature can throw at us, especially around our nitrogen timing. Next key player that we want to talk about is our planting population. So how many seeds per acre are you going to choose to plant that product at across the acre or across your plot? Certainly, you know, we're moving towards higher populations throughout the state. Our state average, I believe, is right around 34,000, just under that, I believe, at 33,800, I think, is a survey that I saw here over the last couple weeks. So more plants equals more ears, but that doesn't always mean necessarily more yield. More plants also equals more competition, more potential to bring stress into that plant. Can that plant handle that stress with the stock quality? Can it handle the stress of maybe a lack of nutrients for a high population? Can it handle the high population if Mother Nature cuts off our rain and limits us on our moisture throughout the year as well? So those are a number of things that we have to take into consideration as well. But there certainly are products that handle high populations better than others. You can see a couple pictures here of just how this spacing looks. There's an example here. You look up top, and this product, certainly look at the tip back in our ears, a couple stubby ears in here as well. Stock quality doesn't look near as great, so you can see that this hybrid certainly didn't like the competition of an increased population. Whereas this picture, you look at these stalks are much healthier. The girth of these is way better. Each ear is filled out to the top and certainly maximized to its fullest potential. There's a lot of thought process behind this, though, that says that if you don't have a little tip back in your ear, the tip back is when we see this ear, just like right here, follow my cursor, you see that ear is not fully filled out with corn to the top. You certainly want to see a little tip back, but you also want to see corn as far to the top as possible as well. If you see corn all the way to the top, that means you're leaving bushels on the table, and we didn't maximize all of our resources to the fullest of our capabilities either. So here's an example from our Huxley plot here 2 years ago in 2015. We had 18 different DeKalb products planted at 3 different population rates, all side by side. The red bars equal 32,000 seeds per acre. The purple bars are 35,000 seeds per acre, whereas the green represents 38,000 seeds per acre. As you can see, every hybrid in this chart reacts much, much differently to population. So that's what makes this decision a little bit more difficult to understand based on the product that you choose. Every one of those 6 options that we've given you represents a different graph or a different number on this chart, and it's up to you guys to run the numbers or run your profitability, see what's going to fit into your bottom line, and then also do a little research, and I'll go into that here next to see where that product fits in into this model of maximizing your yield potential. So we can visit www.dekalb.com, go down here to Tools, and then Optimize My Seed Planting Rate. And this is where we can go in and run some options for this for our area, for this area within the state, and certainly understand, try and get a better feel for what is my correct planning rate that I need to be thinking about planning this hybrid. So you can see here on the screen we've got an example. So once you get into that website, you can type in our zip code here at Huxley is 50124. And then type in our grain price. Look at what we can sell our October corn for, which is right around 340 to 350 today. So remember to take your market price minus your basis, whatever your co-op is paying cash price for, and give us a true number there on your grain price. Then we get to select your corn product and what it costs, seed cost per unit, and your yield environment, and then hit calculate curves. So whenever you type in your seed cost per unit, this is going to be how much you paid for an 80,000 kernel bag. So what we have for price for you on the previous slide was a price for every 1,000 seeds. So whenever you get into this tool, make sure you take that price times 80 and type that number in here. As you can see, the example has $324.80 in there with a 220 yield environment. Once you hit calculate the curve, it spits out a lot of this information here, a lot of information to dive into to truly understand where's the best rate. So it gives you two options here. It gives you an optimum planting rate. This is your optimum would be your economic optimum planting population rate. This would be where your economics fall into play in the previous screen that you typed in. Your corn price, your price per bag of corn, and your yield goal all play into this factor on determining what is that economic rate. You can see here 36,000 ends up being that optimum rate. They also give you a yield maximizing rate as well, and that's where your yield maximizing rate is where this yield curve peaks out at, and wherever that number ends up being. You can see here 45,600 seeds is your yield maximizing rate. But if you plug that number in to your draft sheet, you'll see a very high number or a high cost rate for your seed with that kind of planting rate or planting population rate, I should say. So what's the best fine line in here? My suggestion would be to probably use a yield goal right around 200. And use that, and then plug in your economic factors, and then make a decision in your draft sheet on whether you want to be at the economic planting rate, this number here, or you want to be at your yield maximizing rate, or somewhere in between there as well. It also gives you a basic net income number. So this is basically your yield potential times your price of corn that you said, minus your seed cost as well. And you can see your overall rate of return or your income at each population rate there as well. So you can see you're minimizing your rate of return. You basically increased only $1 increase in net income for a 4,000 seed per acre increase. Obviously, that 4,000 seed increase isn't going to be paid for with that $1 per acre return. So a lot of different factors to take into consideration there when choosing that right planting population. Next, we're going to dive into the planting date. Typically, most growers have basically a 2-week window to get their corn planted. Most of the time, you get a good early shot of weather in late April, mid-April, maybe some years as we're starting to see this winter shape up to be a very nice warm winter. We could certainly see the soil conditions shape up very fast once things turn to our favor. With that being said, you typically get a couple rain events, and then after those rain events is when typically growers rush right back out after those rain events to finish planting their corn. I believe Iowa State's done a summary or a survey, and on average, on any given year, there's only 9 optimal planting days in a growing season to truly plant corn in the best of environments. So if you think about all the millions of acres of corn that we plant in our state of Iowa, most of that gets planted in a short amount of time. Typically, we recommend an early planting date that gets you into the ground at a great time, but also gives you a little risk as well, as far as maybe an early season frost that could come in May and nip your plants back a little bit, freeze those off, or maybe just nip the top leaves. All depends on if that growing point is out of the ground. Certainly, we shoot for a 50-degree soil temp, and not just the first day of a 50-degree soil temp. We'd like to see the forecast headed in the right direction with a good 3 to 5 day forecast of a window there to get out and get the corn planted. So what the early planting date option really means is that first couple days that everybody's out planting corn. This is when we're going to run out and plant the fantasy farming plot, the early planting date selections. Next is the mid-planting date. The mid-planting date is typically the first part of May, or essentially 10 days after the early date. So it'd be that second wave of planting dates, or that second wave of rush after a lot of the weather events have already passed. We see a good trend in the forecast, and then we hit it really hard and get all of our corn in the ground. If you want to mitigate all your risk from freeze and frost, and want to go even later into May and do the late option, that's certainly your choice. But more times than not, you're going to maximize your yield potential in the first week and a half of May or earlier in those planting date options. You can see here a little data, again, from our Monmouth Learning Center, as far as when we would like to see our planting date, and some of the dates how they affect yield. We can see here a couple different tillage options even. We have a strip till option of April 7th, May 5th, and then also May 22nd. And you can see our May 22nd options have certainly tailed off here towards the end. Our conventional till is certainly given us a linear trend downward in those on those different days. So certainly, like I said before, we want to be leaning towards the earlier side of those options, probably either the early or mid. Of the 21 teams that participated last year, all 20 of them were within the early and mid sections, and I'd say where they were 50-50 split between early and 50% in the mid planting date as well. You can see as well another chart here. Fungicide plays into some of your options as well, and how does a fungicide help you based on your planting date? You can see here the later planting dates yielded 40 bushels per acre more with a fungicide application. So there's a number of factors that can play into that. As far as timing, heat units, moisture in your canopy. Do you have a foliar disease that's set in or not? And that's really where your fungicide decision comes into play. So we talked a little bit about fungicide on the last slide. So let's go ahead and talk about what we call our kicker on our team. This is certainly what we call basically just it gives us a good option to be a kicker, to give you the little bump to get over the goal line, or get you that late season little edge into yield benefit. So certainly if we have foliar diseases present, we certainly recommend a foliar fungicide applied. Now, you're making a lot of these decisions obviously early in the season to apply this fungicide or not, but typically you'd be out scouting the plot in your late June time frame, so you apply your foliar fungicide right at tassel, or what we call VT, to the R1 reproductive 1 stage in your corn plant. So I know it's a little difficult to make a fungicide decision in the March timeframe, but pencil it into your budget, into your profitability, and your bottom line, in your draft sheet, and see if that works into your goal or not, and see. There's also a lot of late season health benefits from a fungicide as well. Stay green here that you see in this right picture, that plant health, the leaves are still all in the plant, and your stay green is a lot better, and the plants do stay healthier and upright much longer in the season. Here again are a couple more graphs of what fungicide can do for us in season. Now here's one on the left where we had an untreated check versus our headline fungicide from 2010. We actually saw a 10 bushel advantage, and I would say that 10 bushel advantage last season in 2016 was very common, but you also have to take into effect your economics behind that. So what we're charging for an application with fungicide costs is going to be $26 to the acre. So if you think about $26 to the acre at let's just say 350 corn, how many bushels the acre do you need to make that fungicide work? And at those economics, you need more than 7.5 bushels to make the application pay for itself. So I would say that 7 bushel range is right in there as far as an average benefit for certain hybrids. Certainly take a look at the characteristics of the disease package of those certain hybrids to see, if their disease ratings are lower, then you'd certainly think about applying the fungicide or not. If they have good disease ratings, then it could be an option that you may think about not doing as well. So a lot of things to think about. Certainly Mother Nature plays into effect. A lot of times corn on corn rotation plays a huge factor into this. If you're in a corn on corn where you plant continuous corn year after year in the same spot, fungicide is almost a given in those crop rotations. The rotation that we'll be using for this year is a corn-soy rotation, so the rotation doesn't play as big a factor into this decision as it would if it was corn on corn. The playing field. So we're just giving you a little map here of where the Huxley Learning Center is at. We're at the corner of I-35 and Highway 210, just south and east of Huxley, Iowa. This is the block that we have chosen to. Not final yet, but we're hoping to put our plots on this block of field behind to the north side of our building. And the reason I want to showcase this is because there's certainly options that you can get into. We'll get into a little bit later around being able to watch your plot from a distance with our Climate Field View app and watch the rainfall and conditions throughout the year to watch those and make sure that we're catching the rains and we don't get any hail, things like that, to make sure that our plot's doing everything that we can. A little bit more about the playing field. So each school will be assigned a 15-foot by 400 foot plot. So basically what we do is take your draft sheet, and we'll go through the draft sheet here in a little bit, but we put that into a 6-row plot. So 6 30-inch rows is 15 foot wide, and we'll run that plot 400 foot long. A little bit more about the soil profile. It's a clarion loam type soil, very flat, only 2 to 5% slope. I'd say it's on the lower end of that scale, more closer to 2 to 3% slope. Organic matter is probably between 3.5% and 4% organic matter. So good organic matter. Or like I said before, our crop rotation is corn, soy. We had a soybeans there last year that yielded 65 bushels or a little bit more. We will apply a blanket amount of phosphorus, and that's what we call MAP, and potash is your potassium. Those are figured in to your fixed costs. So those are certainly variables that play into your decisions on a farming operation on any given year. But we've turned this into a fixed cost for you guys to make the program a little bit simpler. The plot area will be chisel plowed and soil finish before planting, and those will be those costs will be taken care of in the fixed cost section as well. So here's a look at those fixed costs. We've got obviously land rent. Now these are just all fake costs. We're not truly going to charge you guys a number to do this plot, but these are just fake costs that we want to simulate the decisions that a grower makes on any given year. Land rent we lowered from last year. We understand there's a lot of customers that are having land rent conversations and trying to get their land rent lowered. So we're going with $225 to the acre. A dry fertilizer program of phosphorus and potassium there of around $60 per acre. Crop insurance, that's a given year decision. It can be anywhere from $10 to $20. We're going to go with a $12 rate there for crop insurance, and then we get into a soil finisher application there, or finisher would be $14 to the acre. A lot of those equipment costs and application costs here are taken right off of our 2016 Iowa State custom rate survey. So the Iowa State always goes out and surveys a number of different growers throughout each season and takes an average of what those guys are charging for custom rates to do these services on the farm. Our nitrogen application rate will be right at $12.25 per acre. Now that's just the application. That doesn't take into consideration what nitrogen rate you're going to apply. We're going to charge you $19.90 an acre to plant. That takes into everything into consideration with the tractor, planter, and using those services to go plant. Spraying applications, $6.80. That's just the application. And then our herbicide program runs about $35 per acre, and that'll be a one-pass program after tillage to get us through the season, and then complete harvest, which is what we call a combine, a tractor and grain cart, and hauling that corn to town as well. So that runs about $49.70 per acre. So your grand total cost there is $434.65 for your fixed costs. Now these are decisions that are going to be made for you, and not much say into that. So let's get into your variable costs per plot. Now these are going to be the decisions that you guys as a team are going to make to help your bottom line. Now your seed cost is going to be variable based on what hybrid you choose and what planting population you choose for that hybrid. Obviously, if you choose a side dress application, we're going to charge you another $12.25 to run that applicator across the plot. Nitrogen is going to be right around 36 cents per pound of nitrogen. So take your total pounds of nitrogen that you want applied, take that and times 36 cents. Fungicide application, we talked a lot about that fungicide decision is going to be $26 per acre. Soil insecticide option is going to be $16. So soil insecticide comes into play if you have no below ground pest protection in your corn product, and you feel like you've got high pressure or a good enough pressure of corn rootworm to make that soil insecticide work. So that's a decision if you have enough corn rootworm present that you might as well just choose a Smart Stacks product versus a soil insecticide, but the soil insecticide option is available. Starter fertilizer will run about 4 gallons to the acre of that on a fertilizer program there. That'll be about $13.50 per acre. And then we also charge drying. So like I said, if we get to the end of the season, we harvest your plot, it ends up being 20 some percent moisture. We do charge just like the elevator would charge us. It's typically around 4 or 5 cents per percentage point per bushel to get down to 15% moisture. Pretty common stuff there that our growers typically have to pay. So for the draft, we kind of went through the decisions here. I'll flip over to the draft sheet here in a second, but just to run through the draft again, you're going to choose a quarterback. That's going to be your corn product, with or without soil insecticide, and with or without starter fertilizer. We're going to run 3 gallons of the acre of a 624-6 fertilizer profile. And the nitrogen rate is going to be how many pounds per acre do you want? That's going to be running back 1. Your running back 2 is going to be, do you want to do that all pre-plant incorporated, or do you want to split that into a side dress application or not? Your next main decision will be your planting population, then your planting date, and are you going to choose a foliar fungicide as your kicker or not at VT R1 time frame. So that kind of runs through the program, or the fantasy farming program in general, in a pretty speed fashion. And so why are we doing this? So we want to hopefully help give you guys a learning opportunity to put these decisions to work, and then we're going to we want to basically give a little bonus here to our winners for the year. So we're going to give $1,000 to the chapter that has the highest yield. That's not taking any dollar numbers into effect, but whoever has the highest yield number at the end of the year gets the $1,000. The next little bonus here will be the highest profit per acre. So we'll take your bottom line, and you'll take your yield and take your economics into play, and whoever has the highest profitability will benefit from that $1,000 reward as well. And then something we tried last year that I think we're going to go ahead and try again in 2017 is we're going to have an optional summary report. So if your chapter chooses to write up a little report at the end of the year, a 1 or 2 page report about your decisions, how they were made, what did you take into consideration while making those decisions, maybe some screenshots of climate, your FieldView app as you watched it throughout the season, whatever you want to throw into that report. We have a metric grading scale to rate those on to award a $1,000 winner of a best summary report there as well. I've mentioned a couple different times here how we can get to how you can follow us or follow your plot, rainfall, field health images, number of different things there. You go to climate.com and sign up for an account. You can get this on your on an iPad or a smartphone as well, or it can be on your desktop computer, and follow us there with that account and showcase some different things there. You can see, you can follow the weather, you can set up alerts, and then also type in your nitrogen program, and then follow the nitrogen advisor throughout the year to see if your nitrogen program that you choose is going to make it to the end of the year or not, or maybe it's going to tell you that you had too much nitrogen as well. So a number of different things you can do there. If you get to that point where you want to set up an account and you have a lot of questions here, feel free to send us a message and we'll get in touch with you to set up that account. Here's just a little bit about what the Huxley Learning Center does, what we are and what we do throughout each season. And then the last slides here of your teacher toolkit are basically around our legal statements that we have to showcase as well. So let's get out of here and we'll run over to our draft sheet. And so this is our spreadsheet, and this is how you draft your team through the year. So Kay Robin, be watching for announcements from Kay on when we send out this draft sheet. But make sure you type in your school chapter name at the top. And then you see here our fixed costs that we walked through in the presentation. They're all taken into consideration here at our $434.65 per acre range. Now I want to get into how we fill out our per acre variable costs, and I want you to pay attention here on how these variable costs affect the total cost of production. So I'm going to walk through an example of how we would choose our team throughout this spreadsheet. So let's say we want to choose 5806 as our hybrid. You're going to click on this cell and choose yes. And then as you type in the population that you want, you can see here I'm typing in 35,600 seeds. So we're going to abbreviate that to 35.6. And that's going to be a cost of $150.59 per acre. Now you can see that automatically has changed our total cost of production here at the bottom. And so we can watch our cost of production increase as we make our decisions. Now that's very important to do whenever you think about at the end of the year, if you take into consideration how many bushels of 350 corn is it going to take to get that money back or make a little money at the end of the year. I'm going to type in 160 pounds of nitrogen. You can see there that 36 pounds, that's going to be $57.60. I'm going to choose a side dress application, and I'm going to go 67 in the pre-plant incorporated, and I'm going to go 33 at our post B5 rate. So anytime you choose a side dress application, make sure that you choose what percentages you want split between those pre and post applications, so we get that accurate into our model. I'm going to go with a starter fertilizer. I'm going to go no soil insecticide, and I'm going to spray a foliar fungicide at VT. You can see there our total cost of production is $694.59 that we have to spend per acre to start growing a crop of corn. Now, what can we do to lower these costs? Now, say you have a goal that you want to keep your costs under $675 per acre. We can go back up here. We can manipulate our population a little bit if we have to. You can see the costs come down there. We can get rid of our Digest application and maybe go with no starter fertilizer, and that brings us down to $664. So a lot of different options here that you can play with. Certainly debate this as a chapter or a team or within your class or however you guys choose to do this, but we're looking forward to getting your draft sheets in, getting this back to us so we can put your team to work for you throughout the year. So with that, that concludes our little video tutorial of how the fantasy farming program works and how we make those decisions and some of the factors that we take into consideration when making those decisions as well. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to get a hold of us here at the Learning Center. You can follow us on Twitter for updates throughout the season, but please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions in this process as well. Look forward to seeing your draft sheets come in and see the number of different strategies that we have from around the state. We have 27 chapters that are signed up for this year. So with that, I'm going to say good luck and happy farming. Thanks a lot. Bye.